And we are going on right now. Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another video with me and Ken. Sorry,
Hairball.
me and Ken. We're gonna sit here and we actually talking about secret agents in this what secret agent films and expectations and things we like to see in secret agent. Just basically secret agent stuff.
We got spy films and secret agents. What makes or what do we like to see in those movies that makes us go yes, and then those movies that go no, that's just not happening. That's too far beyond.
So, all right then. So since we you know what, since it's I'm gonna go ahead and let you lead us into this this subject, this topic this time.
Ooh, I get to lead first. That's how exciting. What do we like in spy movies? Well, to have a good spy movie, you have to have a good spy story, right? We need something.
Yeah.
You also have to have the good bad guy. Good guy, bad guy, or that secret organization sometimes is always a plus minus in there, but there's good and bad ones of those too. We've seen a lot of that fail in some of the movies we'll talk about in our second hour. But for me, I like a good challenging bad guy. That guy that just walks in there, guy or girl, actually, it's not limited. I mean, we got Moriarty being gender bent and Sherlock. So and that was really good. I did not see that coming. That was pretty good. I like that. That was the CBS series Sherlock, by the way, not the BBC version of Sherlock, which I like also. But then they have a good bad guy too, because Moriarty in there is freaking nuts, like crazy nuts, and that one.
How in depth or how deep or how rich of a personality should the villain have? Should he be one dimensional? Hey, I'm going to destroy the world, but actually. Can you forgive a one-dimensional villain if he had personality?
Yes, you can. It's all what that villain brings to the screen. If they're just there to wipe out the world, sometimes that's exactly what you need in a movie. But then there are those other movies that are kind of like they build up, just like Sherlock and Moriarty. We know through history and all the books that have been written, Sherlock Holmes, Moriarty was always kind of in the background. No one ever even saw Moriarty. But then you had this mysterious villain in the background that was manipulating everything around and super smart, just as smart as Sherlock was. So a very good equal, talented, skilled, thoughtful, meticulous, and that character worked perfectly. If you had a Moriarty that just walked up and I'm here to take over the world, you would be so disappointed, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
especially if you read any of the Sherlock books, or even heck, any of the movies with Robert Downey Jr. or the BBC version with
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. I do not know the CBS guy version. I can't remember him off the top of my head, but still, very well done for a modernized Sherlock Holmes. And then we have bad guys. We have organizations like Spectre and James Bond. We've had. I can't think of the name of the group in the Bourne Identity, the Castle Rock. I think that was their name, Castle Rock, or something very close to that.
They had like 4 different names. Like every movie was like a different name.
Exactly. I mean, the deeper you went, the deeper you found out about even more and more and more as the Bourne Identity, Supremacy, Ultimatum, and then you even had the one with Jeremy Renner. And I haven't seen the newest one yet.
I didn't get a chance to watch that one.
The newest one I have.
I've seen the newest one.
I'm going to see that one.
I hadn't seen the one with Jeremy Renner.
But, you have all these organizations. I think, depending on the style of movie that you're watching really dictates the type of bad guy that you need. For me, a James Bond bad guy needs to be somebody with depth. Like Dr. No and all them other bad guys, But then we have like movies like Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. Spy movie nonetheless, but in a comedy. But, Dr. Evil didn't really have to be anything but funny. He was a complete buffoon. Yes, he had evil plans, but, did we need him to be all that in a buttermilk biscuit? No, we did not. I think a lot of the movie of what your expectation, especially if you have one that's come from a very existing background, such as Sherlock Holmes or Bourne Identity or any of the other series movies or books that have been out there before, you would come to expect so much more in your creative bad guys or your organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of
Uh,
expect it because when you see something that shortchanges you automatically get turned off, and you're just like, oh God, really? Come on, why
I
is
think
that happening?
yeah, I do think that the villain should measure up with the motivation.
Well, yeah. What
If
what what is the goal of
he's
a movie? What is the movie?
yeah,
What's the goal? I mean, not rephrase it.
okay. What are some? Okay, we could you deal with the cliches? Say one person says he wants world domination, doesn't have a reason for it, but just wants power.
See,
Like should
again,
yeah,
we run into that again. What is the character's purpose in the movie? What are they doing? Spy movies always have to have some kind of purpose. We've seen this, in Tom Clancy movies too. What are they doing?
yeah,
What is the overall goal? I mean, good example, True Lies. We
yeah,
already have an established spy. Arnold Schwarzenegger's a spy. He works for a spy organization. His family has no clue what he does. He works for this organization, and throughout the movie, you really never know exactly. I mean, they have one or two little mission things in there, and there was really, just a random bad guy of the day showed up, you know,
yeah.
and it
And
worked.
even with him, I think he had personality.
Well, yeah,
I think his personality to make up for because you didn't know nothing about his character.
they didn't really go into a background of a lot of the characters in there. It was just, to me, it was a good, entertaining movie, a spy movie
Hmm.
with some comedy in it, kind of, not as comedy as Austin Powers was, but, a good movie that had a decent balance of bad organization with the chief villain and of course, all the little sideline things in there that were funny. And it was great and it worked out excellently, but to
Yeah,
me, again, it really depends on the movie and who's in it and what's going on, because that's what you're going to expect. Am I looking at a comedy? Am I being a serious movie, or is this one that's kind of up in the air and I'm not really sure what I'm going to see? You could have movies like The Man from Uncle, to me, or Mission
I
Impossible.
didn't get to see. I didn't see that Man for Uncle is any good.
The new one I've only seen parts of, but it was pretty good for what I saw.
Yeah,
Um, Spies Like Us. I mean, all these different movies. Spies Like Us, it's going to be a comedy. Man from Uncle, or Mission Impossible. I love the old series, the 1960s and 70s and sometimes early 80s series of those.
yeah,
And they had a mission, and sometimes they had that really unbelievable, over the top bad guy, and you're like, wow. And then it was more on the your spy characters, and then sometimes it was a really badass bad guy, and those guys look stupid. And sometimes, and you have to have that. Bad guys don't always fail,
yeah.
and that's
That's
I
one
think
thing
I think
I
they
would like to
missed.
see more.
Yeah, you can't have. I mean, good guys. Let me rephrase that. Good guys don't always win,
Hmm.
and I think in a good series movie, like when I say a series like a trilogy, or maybe even a series such as like Austin Powers or um, James
Double O
Bond or
Seven.
something like that, and establish
Yeah,
a series. I think you have to have sometimes. We've seen Sherlock Holmes gets beat. We've seen him get beat a couple times, and he gets frustrated, and it helps build that character.
yeah,
And I truly think that they should have that in a lot of movies. I don't want always the good guys always win. I just
yeah,
and in the movie formula usually is we get introduced to the good guy, the mysterious bad guy or bad person or organization. They have to go and save the world some way because they're about to vaporize everybody. And in some of those movies, it's so unrealistic.
hmm.
Why would you vaporize the core of the earth? Why?
It's like
You're
you
on
stay
the
on
earth
Earth
too,
too.
genius. Hold the world hostage or something. Don't blow it all up because you ain't got nothing left. You know,
All right, don't ask you this: how well should the villain and the hero, the protagonist and antagonist, how well should they counter each other? Should they be like, one guy is able to use a knife, the other one uses a sword, or you know what I'm
once
saying?
again,
How well should they be able to relate to one another?
I think that is. I kind of like a good match, but one with a slight edge above the other, and how the other one may counter that advantage. Kind of like watching the scene from Sherlock Holmes, Dark Shadow? The second one with Robert Downey Jr. when he
Game of
met
Shadows.
Moriarty.
Yeah, yeah, Game of
And
Shadows.
in their mind, they literally ran through their own fight and they were such evenly matched. But the one thing that Moriarty didn't count on was the ability of Sherlock to self-sacrifice himself. He never
Yeah,
saw that as a happening, and he sacrificed himself to get rid of Moriarty and save the world, kind of thing. So there
yeah.
was an advantage, even though they didn't mention it. But if you watch the movie, you'll go, "Oh, okay, I got you. I can see that."
I can kind of give you a really good example of where the good guy and the bad guy have a kind of being parallel to one another, and it's literally one of the best agent films, secret agent films of all time. And it was Skyfall, how
Love Skyfall.
James Bond and Raul Silva, how they were like two sides of the same coin.
Yep. Well, they were both spies to begin with, anyway. They were both
Yeah,
00 spies.
and
But
how they both had this relationship with Judy
yep,
Dench's character.
yep. One cared for her so much, and then one cared for her so much, and she sacrificed him in order for the greater good. But yeah, Skyfall really brought me back into the Bond series, the newer Bond series. I like Daniel Craig, and Skyfall. That movie was one of the things that really worked well, and especially the matching. How good he was against James. That's what really caught my attention. This guy was methodical and thought of everything. And again, we kind of threw in a little advantage there because he didn't have a whole lot of support on his side, but James
Yeah,
did. So, the advantage was there. It wasn't a character advantage, it was a support advantage. But yes, I totally
yeah,
agree on
you're right.
that. Totally agree. Oh, but I like to mix it up. Again, most of the spy movies that we have out there are serious movies. I mean, with very few exceptions. I mean, you kind of have like the Mission Impossible series, the movies with Tom
Yeah,
Cruise in it. They kind of bring a little bit of the old Mission Impossible in there, but then they throw out some way out stuff that
some pretty intense stuff. I could give you
gets out
another.
there.
I can give you another example. We're not normally that the. It's not that the hero and the villain had anything in common. It's the villain was very memorable, and this is one of the few like bad guys that what he said, like his motivation, it made sense. Was in the movie Kingsman, The Secret Service.
Yes.
As a villain, like what he said made sense. The reason why he was trying to kill all the people was because he wanted to save the planet and it was overpopulated.
He had purpose.
And he figured out that no matter what they did, overpopulation was the problem.
Yeah, it's like an infectious disease, and he said the only way to get rid of the disease is what was it? Burn the fever off or something is the wording he was using. And it had some
Yeah, he's like got to
seriousness,
kill out.
but I mean that was a good mixed movie where you had good seriousness and some comedy in there. It wasn't a comedy movie, but it just had it, and that was a very different movie too. That whole movie was a completely different vibe than a lot of the movies at the time. In fact, I think Kingsman 2 is coming out not too far from now anyway, which I will definitely
Yeah,
watch. But yeah, it was a whole different feel for that movie. I mean, we have, you know, comedy such as Austin Powers or True Lies, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, all the way to the extremes like Bourne Ultimatum, Supremacy, James Bond. I was trying to find some of the older spy movies that I've seen, like Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford, carrying on that series. Um, Man from Uncle's too new. Some of All
all
Fears.
right. Let me ask you this then: when it comes to a spy film, which one do you prefer more? Should it be subtle suspense, or should it be action packed?
When I think spy movie, well, let me phrase that because I could go either way with this question. I like a good balance in my movies. I like the action, but like, for example, which one was it? The Bourne. Hang on. Was it the Bourne Supremacy or Ultimatum? There was a car chase scene in there, and it was just like
I believe it was.
non-stop.
I think it's actually both of them because I think all of them done had a chase sequence
Well, I
in
mean,
with
it
a
was
car.
like extra long. It was like going through the tunnels in Russia. I think it was the Bourne Supremacy. I think was that one because it was this. I think it was the second one, but it was just like this very long, drawn out car chase scene in the movie, and it literally made me car sick of all the movement and things that was going on, and it to me it really didn't bring so much to the story,
Yeah.
you know. And but it's like, but it was like it was there just for the whole action moment, like just keeping the pace of the movie going. I mean, there's a good pace, and then there's like above the top, almost unrealistic pace of a movie.
Yeah.
I like to have one that's got a good mix, just like comedy. I mean, there's a little bit of sometimes when James Bond is not known to be funny, but he does have a few little
Mm-hmm.
smart aleck comments here and there. But that's I expect it from James Bond because he's more of a classy
Yeah.
spy. He's just not out there to he's
Yeah.
what do you
He's
think
good with
about
the
that?
one-liners.
Yeah, the good
He's definitely
one-liners.
good with the one-liners.
And it's great.
I'm
It works.
I think I'm into what you just said about should be a pretty good balance because when you think about it, Skyfall did bring back that subtlety, even though it had action.
Oh yes. What? I mean,
Yeah.
when
But if you
when
look at
it's in the
something
old
like Mission
car,
Impossible, yeah, when you think about Mission Impossible, it's action packed.
it is, and they have a little
It's
bit
a
of
pretty
humor in
action
it. But I
packed.
mean, the last one I saw, it was like, we got Scotty in there and all, but I mean, it has a lot of action going on, but it's still got some balance. We still have a mystery to solve. We still have what's going on. We still have the missions to do. We still have the hinge of the old Mission Impossible themes with a more modern flair, way modern flair, actually. But it has a good balance. Like I say, some of the action is extreme, more so because now we can do a whole lot more with special effects than we used to be able to do 20, 30 years ago when you had these earlier movies where you're doing little stuff. Who else is going to be sucking like gecko fingers to the side of the tower in United Arabs? Who's going to do that? Who's going
Yeah.
to be flying around in a dust storm like that? You know,
I
it's
mean, that was actually a pretty good sequence.
it was, but it's just that there's that over the top and there's those subtleties, and I think when I go into a movie, it just depends on the movie and the mindset that I'm walking into it of what I want to see. I can accept walking into Austin Powers knowing it's a comedy. I can walk into James Bond and know I should get a good balance of a movie with a James Bond movie. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you kind of knew what was going to happen, but you didn't realize how much action was actually in that movie and how well. I mean, that was a well blended movie for me. But I walked in blind. I didn't know what was to expect. I just kind of expected the spy movie, and just went with that. And then you get into like your ultimatum movies and Born Supremacy and all that. I mean, I had never read the book, so I wasn't familiar with it. So I walked in very open minded to that. And I found a pretty good, mix, a lot more action and a little story in the first movie. Then the second one kind of brought you more story. The third one brought you more story and a lot more action. I didn't see the Jerry
Yeah.
Rayner movie, so I'm not really sure about how that one went, but I expected it to be good. I mean, I enjoy him as action characters and some of the stuff he's played in on TV series. So I kind of expect that one to
Yeah,
be
he
a
got
good
pretty
blend.
good.
So, I think my expectation comes to if it's an already established title, I kind of know what I want. And like I say, Casino Royale and all them were kind of working on it, bringing it back. Because
Yeah.
I think of the James Bond, and we'll probably save this for the next hour a little bit though, is that the every Bond brings a new flavor. Yes, James Bond, but
Yeah.
every character, Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, who am I missing? Roger Moore. I can't. That one guy, I can't ever remember his name. What was his
The
name?
first guy.
Peter Hunt. or George Lazenby. Sorry, that was the director there. You know, we've had all these, many actors who have been in this role. And of course, I'm more of a classic person, but I really like Daniel Craig. I think he kind of reinvigorated the series for me. And then of course you had to have a good story with every one of those coming on board. So it was kind of a re-imaging of the series, and it definitely brought me into it. I mean, there was some really good stuff in there, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. So, it just all depends on the movie, just what you expect out of a movie. I think a good spy should have, like, say, a good bad guy or good, evil organization, and what's their point? What's their role?
Yeah,
What are
why
they
they're
doing?
doing what they're doing.
What are they?
Does it
Why are
always
they
have
doing? And even it could be even why they joined. What was that
like?
movie? The
Does it
comedy
have?
with the McCarthy Spy, I think is it actually called.
I hadn't seen it yet. I wanted to, but I hadn't.
I've seen bits and pieces of that movie, and she was a desk jockey who got put out in the field because there was no one else left that was not compromised. So
Yeah.
you have a kind of out of water story with an established spy, and then you had a out of water who's never been in the field but is there. So you get a lot of humor, and there's some serious moments in the movie, but out of water is fun. What do they do? What's what's going on? They're trying to save the world, and how? Kind of like those
Reminds me of
recruiting.
Get Smart.
Yeah, exactly. Get Smart. I
Yeah.
love Get Smart. I loved it as a TV series. I was kind of iffy about the movies, but they were okay. They tried to bring it. I mean, they hit most of the magic buttons if you were an old Get Smart watcher.
Yeah.
So it was definitely worthwhile to watch. But again, here's where you go with, again, established series or an established character set, so you have expectations of
Yes.
what you expect, and how much do they butcher it or change it, good or bad.
I asked you about the villain. Should the protagonist have depth or personality? Which one would you prefer?
I think
Because
personality drives a lot of those movies. I think, I mean,
yeah,
it's great to know a character's story background, but I mean, really, when you jump in one of those movies, how is that character? Are they smart? Are they stupid? Do they handle themselves? Are they quick on their feet, or are they learning? I mean, you can see a lot of the personality, and then that personality can drive what you see as their skill base. Are they struggling? And they're like, throughout the whole movie, or they're like, yeah, I got this. And how confident they are in their work, just like watching Kingsman. Kingsman's a good one where you had what was the name of the chief Kingsman guy? Was it Bugsy? Was the kid
Eggsy, yeah, Eggsy.
Eggsy? I don't know why I said Bugsy. I'm thinking of Bugs Bunny or something. Where he had, come on, Bugsy. But you had see, now you get it. Where you have Harry Hart, who's the established spy, a gentleman, a well-established spy in his own right, and he's bringing
Played by Colin
down.
Firth. He did a great job with that character too.
Oh, I loved it. I love this whole character. A good man should always have an umbrella, and of course, the umbrella is like a freaking missile launcher, and God knows what else. And I like the bar scene. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in any of the movies recently, where he just schools those dudes real quick. And didn't even break a sweat doing it. That's a gentleman spy if I ever saw one. And I loved it, and it worked. But you have Eggsy throughout the movie. At first you thought he was just a dipwad punk off the street, but turns out the boy has some skills, and he can use his brain. And you learn that through seeing his personality and evolution of his character in the Kingsman movie. So yes, I think a good personality can pretty much run a strong story. I think that will work. I mean, it's not going to be every movie. Trust me, it's going to be the actor. It's going to be a lot of the story of what they're trying to tell. And I think in the Kingsman is a very good example of that personality versus backstory and skill set that works great.
All right. What about henchmen? Do the henchmen matter? Now I do want to say this. There's one henchman that comes to mind that's like one of the most memorable of any spy movie I've ever seen, and and she was off Kingsman too.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
Gazelle.
Yep.
She was she was competent. She actually had personality too,
Yes. And that's
and she
rare in
could
a movie.
kick all types of yeah. And then she was. It wasn't just and her character. I guess her weaponry,
Yeah, that was very unique.
like
We have
yeah, it was
James
very
Bond and
unique.
Jaws. You got Gazelle and those
Yeah,
feet. That was
and
badass. Very original,
she
very
was great.
creative. And in this movie, we're talking about henchmen. Our henchmen, we used typically think of just mindless drones or unique drones. I always think of Jaws and James Bond because I always loved Jaws.
Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't speak a whole lot. He was just there. And when he bites people in half, it's like, holy crap, we're all screwed. Or Mr. God, I'm trying to think of his name now. The guy from Live and Let Die,
uh,
Witch Doctor.
oh yeah, I
But he
think I
had
know
that
who you're
guy
talking
with the
about.
steel hand. He
Yeah,
was his henchman in there. To me, I remember the old classic ones, but she was exactly as you said. She wasn't just a pretty face. She wasn't just a blind drone either. I mean, she was a character in that, and even though in a henchman capacity, was very good.
and she
You
had
know
a good relationship with the antagonist.
exactly.
Yeah, it was actually like respect her. You didn't see him cussing her out.
No, he's like, come on, are you serious? I don't want to do all this. She's
He
like, you
was
got to do it.
great.
Now get on there and do it. Riding his ass, and it was great, and it was good chemistry. I mean, they had excellent chemistry, and it's really hard to see that. If we go back into our movies and we go into the henchman department, you might remember a simple character, but it's mostly because they're brooding or foreboding or unique uh, in their characters, but they have nothing else to them. That's it. That's all you remember them for. Jaws, teeth, biting people in half. That's all you
Uh,
remember.
I'm trying to think of the Famke Jensen's character in Goldeneye.
Oh,
Xena on the top. Like I liked her character.
yeah, she was crushing people, crushing with her thighs and killing them.
I
Um,
still want to know how she did that, but
Mad skills, man. That's all we gotta say. Mad skills. But I'm just trying to think.
uh,
I always, see the, kind of like, even on the comedic side, we see, uh,
like the
Doc-
tuxedo.
yeah, Doctor Evil, and you can add like all his little minions, all the little characters he had in there, the Frau, and I can't even think of the guy who got smoked in the chamber there. I'm hurt. I'm hurt and burnt. Can you help me? It's you
Yeah.
remember those unique characters, but again, they had just no substance to them. They're just there for brooding bad guy support team, and zero that goes along with them. Gazelle is a very rare example, and a lot even from 20 years ago in movies of a memorable, well-rounded hench person. Number two. You just don't see anything like that hardly, and that's what I think also made that movie very well.
I think also like even with her, she kind of had a. I think one thing that a lot of these secret agent spy movies kind of rely on is like the fact that sometimes the henchmen have to have a gimmick, and even though hers were her legs, like that's what made her stand out the most. It actually worked because she actually was she was kind of a likable character. I mean, yes, she was doing backflips and kicking people in the face and killing folks, but she actually had personality.
Yeah, it's just I we always think of that foreboding bad guy, but I think they broke the mold in that movie.
Yeah.
And it's not always going to be a bad guy. I mean, another trend that I've seen is that gender cross, bad females, badass female characters that are coming in there. She was the Famke Jensen was a one of the very first ones that I had recalled in a long time. Like that, Kingsman was a perfect example. It's not many that you're seeing of women coming up in those roles because it was just never thought of. How it's a girl, how badass can she be? Come on. And then next thing you know, you're sliced and diced and falling apart on the floor. So, what do you think? And I think that's a good role. And the other thing we don't see a lot of is a lot of female spies in this classical style of movies either.
I was
You know,
trying to think of one or two of them, and if they are in there, they're more like side characters.
exactly. Well, Mr. and
Uh,
Mrs. Smith,
yeah.
both were primary, but again, it's not in her classic style. But that's one example that I can think of right off my head.
Have
Uh,
you ever seen a movie called Salt?
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie was. You know how they had
Oh
those?
yeah, she was a
Yeah,
she was
like a
a hidden
sleeper.
agent. Yeah, sleeper agent.
Yeah, sleeper agent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do remember the trailers for that, and I never did get to watch that. But yes, I know which one you're talking about. Definitely. But I mean, I'm just looking at over the last 30 years of movies, just scrolling through my screen here, and if almost none of them have a dominant female spy character in them, and if they
I mean, I
are,
think the only
they're kind of
one.
a kind of a second string
I think the
or
only one. Yeah, the only one I could really picture that is a spy but has not starred in a spy role yet is Black Widow from like the Avengers.
yes, she's supposed to get her own
If
movie,
she
but I think
actually
like
in a spy movie, I think that's like the one thing that she's missing. Like she is a spy, but we don't see her in like a spy role.
no, because
I mean,
she
Captain
if
America,
you
Winter
watched
Soldier was kind of close.
well if you watched Agent Carter, they give you
Yeah.
a little bit of background, not necessarily her, but where she came from in the organizations. Because they had a character named Dolly, and I can't think of her last name at the moment, but she was basically a Black Widow equivalent, in the 1940s and
Hmm.
1950s of what the current Black Widow is now in the 90s and 2000s. But that would be good. I would like to see a background story. I mean, that's one of the few characters we've seen Ant-Man and all those other guys, but we've never really seen
Hmm.
her. And I mean,
Yeah.
she's a pretty wicked character. She's not stupid. She's smart. She's got skills, and she really shouldn't be a second stringer. She should come in there and jump in there and have our own
Yeah.
series, or at least a definite
Absolutely.
strong.
I could see her in the movie. It just they do. I mean, think about it. We didn't think they could come out with a Captain America movie. It's like, what could Captain America do when you got the Hulk and Thor and Iron Man? What happened? They came out with three Captain America movies. The first one was all right. The last two were completely just awesome. They could do the same thing for Black Widow.
Well, they
Bring
introduced
and do
her
it
in
right.
Iron Man. They brought Black
Like
Widow into
what?
Iron Man right off the bat, and we
Like
didn't
what's his?
see it.
Like what's the relationship? What's their work relationship between Black Widow and Hawkeye? You see it in the Avengers, but it'd be
Yes,
nice to for them to go on a mission together so you can actually see it. See it.
yeah. See the teamwork. See that background. See what's going on there. Because really, Hawkeye and her kind of their own. She's a spy by blood, but he's kind of like one of those obscure characters that probably is a spy, just don't ever really bring it up because we know
Yeah,
they've done missions, they know they have history, they know they've been a team in the past, and they even strongly work well with each other too. So enough to bring him out of the effects of the crystal from the staff. So no, it's there. There's some magic that works there, but again, we may or may not ever see a Black Widow movie. There's only a few more years really before they'll just kind of drop it all together anyway. To the Marvel
hmm
Cinematic Universe. They got what plans out to 2020, I think, right now.
I think possibly further than that.
It's like holy crud. But there's a lot. But I don't mind. I would like to see her come out in more less a spy capacity, like really being a spy, versus more of the mediator slash. I don't know what her
Yeah,
capacity
we
would
want to
be.
see her more as a spy and less as a superhero.
Yes, yes, yes. That would be much better. Excuse me. That spaghetti's
So
coming
yeah,
back,
I
man.
mean,
That's what happens when you whoop your dinner, kids. It comes back to haunt you later.
I
Oh,
should okay, and almost a lot of spy movies. You see a romance. Should there be a romantic element to it?
it depends on the person. Established ones already, we know there's always going to be something. James Bond, prime example. If you're moving in alive, you're James Bond. if you're if you're any of the other characters in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
they probably don't have any romantic anything going on in there. We just
Did
know
you
it
see the
exists.
last? Did you see the last James Bond movie?
Spectre?
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet.
Um, it was two things. It was three things I did like about the movie. I honestly I didn't like it, but it was a couple of things I did like about it. For one, his as the antagonist, brilliant. It was
As
great.
the leader of Spectre.
Yeah, and he had a henchman called Mister Wink, and he was like, you know how Bane is to Batman.
Yep.
He was like that towards James Bond. Like I liked his character. I wish his character would have did more though, but like he was a great henchman. Um, and the love interest was another aspect of the film I did like, but I don't think it flowed well. Like I wish it could have been done a bit better with her character. But having said that, I think like her role, especially like Vesper's role in Casino Royale, like she was a strong. It wasn't a damsel in distress. Like I would like to, if there's going to be a romantic interest to it, even with the last Mission Impossible movie that came out, Rogue Nation. The woman that Ethan was working with, she knew how to kick butt.
Yeah. Yeah. They need to bring in some more stronger female characters into the spy business. They need to bring them out more boldly. And hell, I wouldn't even mind a nice, good, well, I hate to say Charlie's Angels because,
I, I kind of want to see Charlie's Angels, but I want to see it more grounded.
yeah, I don't want to see a comedy. I would really like to see a good, solid, not comedy, Charlie's Angels in a.
Hey, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me catch this call, man. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Hello.
I like to see the Charlie's Angels in a more serious role and
Yes, ma'am.
have them stand out better and be a better character set versus the comedy that we saw in the last two movies of Charlie's Angels. I remember watching a TV series as a kid and it was kind of pseudo serious, but still had that, oh, Charlie mode. I would like to really see a more hardcore version of Charlie's Angels. A more direct, darker, I guess I have to use the word darker version of Charlie's Angels and make it more badass, very up to the top. Make them like Gazelle was.
This is a good idea if they're gonna go with the whole like strong female cast. I just want them to be more grounded. They don't, they don't just jump in the air and know all of this stuff without actually doing research. That was one of my biggest problems with the films.
Yeah, where did all these magical powers come from? What the heck?
Like, yeah, if they'd have grounded it a bit better, it would. I think it would have been a lot better. I mean, they were interesting ideas, but they could do all of these flips. You don't see them train at all. Everything was too lighthearted. Was another thing, and then there wasn't like gunfights or anything like that. Right there, that made it unrealistic. And I understand the Charlie's Angels thing where they do kung fu and all that stuff. Fine.
Yeah, but we never really had a background in the Charlie's Angels. All we know is that, they kind of gave us a little bit of a story that they're cover stories, but never really their true backgrounds. Or how, where did they learn? How did they train? Where did they come from? We just kind of catch one works as an actress on the back lot of a studio. Another one is aspiring musician. Another one is, interior decorator, whatever, secret spy in the background. But where did they come from? How did they get to be at Charlie's Angels? What is Charlie's Angels even about?
Like
Bring
I
us
would actually like
bring
to
us
see an
into it.
origin. I
Yeah,
want to see
origin
an
story.
origin.
Bring us a good origin story. A more up-to-date
I
origin.
think that's where they failed. That they were trying to make the movies too much like the series.
Yes.
But for the time, yeah, but they got to modernize it a little bit.
They did.
That was one thing I think they missed a little bit of. It's like you got to modernize a little bit because this is a different time.
Yeah, the different group, different audience are trying to, a lot of these remakes are trying to capture that audience. We're not trying to capture the people who saw it 30 years ago. We're trying to capture the people who saw it like a week ago. They don't need all that backstory. They don't need to know all these characters. Why bother? They don't need to know that. We just want to hook them line and sinker, and we'll throw everybody that we know in there, and we'll make it work. But
because I know that they came out with a series that failed, but I'm like, I hadn't seen the series, and I'm actually interested to see how the series did flow. But I'm like, if you're going to make if you're going to make like Charlie's Angels, do it like a reboot. Keep 50% of the original material, the other 50%, bring out some new stuff.
That is a great analogy. I remember we kind of said that once in the past. 50% old stuff, 50% bring new. Give us something new and exciting to reinvigorate that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be good. And it looks like we're about to hit our magic marker here.
Yeah, I think we are. We got about 4 more minutes, I believe. And since we said that about how we want to do the spy films and secret agent films and everything, I need to ask you this too: what abilities should, and I guess we'll leave off on this one. What abilities or secret agent have?
What abilities should a secret agent have? That's a good question. But again, I think it's based on the style of movie and what they do. To me, like the skills of a bad guy, they should, be weapons experts. They should have technology under their belt. They should know martial arts. They should have the ability to, basically vanish and disappear and, ninja skills kind of thing. It all depends on the style of movie that you're looking at. I mean, an action adventure one, I expect a lot. If it's a subtle movie, maybe they might need to know some languages and some, basic skill sets and stuff. It's kind of hard to give you a solid answer on that one because we just have so many varieties of movies. To me, like the ultimate bad guy should know. I mean, I like the cultured bad guy, who's the Moriarty kind of bad guy, or the lead Blofeld Spectre bad guy that has these. They're smart, they're cunning, they don't have to be seen, their power is felt without even having to see the physical body. And then when they do show up, it's like, holy crap, they're here and it's time to play. Those are the kind of things I like, both my bad guy and my good guys to have. James Bond carries a reputation, of being that James Bond. I think depending on the movie, your spy should have a very adequate skill set to accommodate that movie in the best way possible. That's very vague.
I said I was gonna. Oh, you good? I know I said I was gonna let that be the last question, but I need to ask one more. Spy movie. Which one? For a spy movie or a secret agent movie, what works better? Having a single agent or having multiple? Because when you think about it, if you watch James Bond, it's mostly single. Even though he does have a little help in him, it's majority him.
Yeah,
but if you watch like Mission Impossible,
you have a team. Yeah, you have a team.
Yeah.
Ooh. Man, that's a toughie. Because you named 2 of my favorite series, and it's really, I watch each for their own respective character. So, like, James Bond, I expect to be solo with occasionally like Moneypenny or the guy from the CIA showing up, Felix. showing up. I expect it. Kingsman was a good series. It was a good solo act, and then they brought in a team. The last 2 or 3 agents that were left. Mission Impossible. I love the teamwork. I love the camaraderie. I like each brings a little different skill set to the table.
Yeah.
There it is. I heard it. I kind of like the team collaborations. I think a tad bit more because you get more bang for your buck in characters.
Yeah.
But there's always the good James Bond solid, lead character and takes no crap from nobody. So I think the team edges out just a little bit in this case.
Yeah.
But, it's very little. I mean, there's very little edging here, in this in the question for me.
All right. I can deal with that.
It's always those tough questions because, both of us have our mentality of what we want to see and do. And, and it's we go back and forth against each other all the time going, what do you like this or like that? It's so hard because we think very much alike. That's the scary part. So I wish Zach were here. He could be a tiebreaker.
Yeah, man. Too bad.
Zach,
Like I said, we're gonna try to get on the next week. We're gonna try to get him on the next.
I need to call
At least we tried this time.
He did try. I heard him on the phone. I did hear him, so he did make an effort. So we'll give credit to Zach to this week. So it's about time to wrap up this hour of what we like and dislike in our spy movies. Our next hour coming up, and we hope you stay with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share for this video as well. But come on back, join us for the second hour of our show tonight, where we talk about the spy movies. I mean, granted, we kind of already lipped a little bit about a few movies, but what movies did we like? Did we not like? What worked? What didn't work? That's all coming up in our second hour here with Narik, Chase, and me, Ken.
All right, then. Y'all heard the man. We're going to catch y'all in the second half. And y'all go ahead and get it ready.